All right, welcome back to Texan Aggies Live, part of the Voice of Cultural Network. I'm your host, Cameron Odyssey, joined by my co-host, as usual, Cannon Torres. We did not do a post-game show. Obviously, it's our own because, I think we both agreed that it takes a couple days to kind of digest what this team has done instead of, getting into it right away and just kind of pointing out, especially usually it's pointing out all the negatives, right? That's usually the case, like how bad they were in this area or whatever. But after a couple of days, I think that you and I can both agree that I think I would give them, a B plus effort in terms of coming out after the long wait, not playing live football outside of, the one scrimmage they had in preseason since, it was that late December. I got to think back against UTSA. Yeah. So it's been a while. And overall, obviously, the things that stood out immediately was the passing offense led by redshirt sophomore starting quarterback Marcel Reed and his new wide receiver duo, which, man, we've been talking about these two guys all offseason, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. Obviously, Concepcion transferred from NC State after 2 seasons. Mario Craver transferred from Mississippi State after 1 year with the Bulldogs. And man, oh man, starting the game off, scoring-wise, Concepcion returned a punt for 80 yards and a touchdown. Just, meep, as they say for that young man. Is just a lightning speed, elite athleticism. Got a second score. It was a 31-yard reception. I believe it was like a crossing route, and he just outran everybody and just
a quick slant in and let him out, let him loose.
Yeah, and just again, we've been waiting for that. We've been waiting to see this duo, and can't leave out Craver, who led the team with 8 receptions for 122 yards, 2 of the 6 touchdowns on the night, both after the catch. I think one was 22 yards, the other was 24 yards, and just these were short passes on the outlet. He just weaved his way through defenders. I mean, elite quickness. This is just a dynamic playmaker. They've got 2 of those guys, which is just insane to me because most teams need one, right? I'll say this. The Texas Longhorns, who lost to Ohio State, I think all of us were going to watch that going, man, they kind of need their own Casey Concepcion. Arch Manning kind of needs that type of guy. And it is true that teams without that elite quickness, especially in the middle of the field in the short game, where you can pick up those chunk gains, it's going to kill your offense. It's going to kill momentum. And that was hurting A&M a lot last year. But I'm telling you, Marcel Reed looked as good as advertised.
Cameron, this is exactly what they wanted to do with these new wide receivers coming in. I mean, these are not the 6'5" high point wide receivers that you might see in the NFL, but these are guys who are going to make absolute plays if you get them the ball, and that's exactly what Marcel Reed did. I mean, you saw
that's the thing. That's what he needed, right?
I would love to see another bubble screen to Mario Craver, let him loose again. I think that you are going to find a lot of success if that continues to happen.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy to me because we've been talking about this run game, which we're going to get to all offseason. I think this is going to be the best run game in the country, or one of the best run games, at least the best in the SEC, mainly due to the returning offensive line, getting all 5 starters back, including several NFL level players that are going to be, second and third round picks next season. We're talking about left tackle Trey Zoon, obviously right guard Amaj Adams, who's received a ton of preseason praise and accolades, and right tackle Demetrius Crownover, obviously left guard Chase Basantis as well. These are all NFL level prospects. Even Mark DeBoo later down the line is an NFL prospect. They did not have the best night. Now, I will say this. They were very good in pass protection. Marcel Reed had a ton of time to go through his progressions. He looked very confident. I have to point out that pass down the seam to Nate Boerkerker. I mean, that was just, he ripped that thing. And I think that a lot of people, credit to Tony Catalina, Carter Carroll's, a lot of guys kind of pointing those out. I saw that immediately during that game when this is the Marcel Reed people are starting to wanting to see. You have enough time in the pocket. He's gonna make good decisions, and he's gonna trust his arm. And he's gotten way better in that velocity and accuracy. And I don't want to get off topic, but yeah, the run game only produced 108 yards on the ground. And I think I'm not going to say that was the plan, but I will say that it did look like OC Colin Klein was focused more on getting Marcel Reed comfortable in this game. I think in these first games, they don't really care too much about how balanced they are because they do know, well, we feel like we have a strength in the passing game. We want to get Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver more involved in this offense. Obviously, their speed is just lethal, and you can get those big plays, which we saw throughout the night through the air, and you don't have to focus as much on the run. But that doesn't mean they want to just go away from that. Obviously, it's just also exactly. Yeah.
They don't want to lean away from it. I mean, that's the strength of this roster. It is an elite running back room, but we saw it in the game as they were easing Le'Veon Moss into that role of rushing again, where I believe he only got around 3 carries for 19 yards. That is 6.3 yards of average on limited snap count. Yeah. So can you imagine what would have happened? And I know this is a realm of imagination, but imagine if he had a 12 carry game. On those numbers as well. That's what you are wanting. But I did see a lot of things that I really liked. I think the disparity between, or the balance between the play calls of pass and rush was a little bit of, we didn't get to see it like this last year, considering they were over, I believe, a 57% rush team last year. Mm-hmm. And now in this first game, we're already seeing them lean heavily towards the pass to get Marcel Reed comfortable, like you said. Mm-hmm. He dropped back 34 times. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head which game last year he had to step back 34 times before the USC game.
I think it's probably Auburn. I think Auburn was the only game where he really had to drop back a lot, and I think obviously that was due to
that's because of 4 overtimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. They had to keep up. I think when the game got close and they were still trying to, and again they were playing from behind. So he had to obviously.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the only reason. Yeah.
In this game, I mean, what I saw from him was that zip that people are wanting. It's clear to me that he got rid of most of that arm dip they had most of this past season, so that he could actually deliver more power behind the ball. I think they worked on that a lot throughout this preseason, and it's shown off in the first game. I mean, he had a passer rating of 174.9. That's pretty dang good numbers from a quarterback who national people have said is just a dual threat guy. I mean, if you can imagine that he's going to be one of these guys that's going to complete just over 64% of passes to these playmaking wide receivers, I think that can really open up what this offense is wanting to do inherently, and that is rush. So once you finally let loose Le'Veon Moss, and I'll let you talk in a second. I feel like I'm going on, but
no, you're fine.
That's what this offense is trying to do. But I don't want to, like lean away from what we saw from the wide receivers and how good they looked as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of you pretty much answered what I was going to say. It's like this isn't a plan throughout the season, right? We're going to get out in front of things. We're going to. We know we're going to ease Le'Veon Moss into the season. Same with Ruben Owens, who credit to Ruben Owens. He had, I think it was a 30-yard run. He showed off that quickness, and I think he loved that, to get that big gain, to kind of get readjusted and get back into the swing of things. And I do know, though, watching the rest of college football, especially, we will get into this later, A&M's Week 3 opponent, Notre Dame, who lost in a very confusing game to Miami in terms of them not utilizing their run game or lack thereof blocking up front and stuff like that, is that a lot of teams are going to be matchup specific. And I think what they saw with UTSA was that this is a brand new secondary, this is a brand new defense overall. And I think we can really just destroy them in the passing game. So if we're not getting those chunk runs, you are right in saying that, on only 3 carries, that's pretty good for Le'Veon Moss, but they didn't want to play him a lot in the first game anyways. That was always the case. That had been we knew he was going to see the field. We just knew that, being that this room is so deep, they don't need to put him out, especially if they have a big lead, which after, being up 21-17 and all of us kind of biting our nails going, whoa, this is great. And then they ran away with it, obviously. And Marcel Reed just kept kind of gashing them in the passing game. And EJ Smith loved it for him getting that touchdown run.
This was awesome for EJ. I'm super happy for the amount that he was putting in this offseason working. And honestly, from people that I've heard, he like pretty much the second best back out there, at least to some people's eyes. It was like that he finally and fully bought into what exactly they wanted him to do, and he's super happy to do it. And you saw it on that punt return. I mean, he blocked 3 different people. This is coming from Mike Elko himself, that he could not have been prouder of what EJ Smith did in this past game. So I'm sure Aggie fans are looking at it and saying that's exactly what we want out of our players.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player. I mean, this guy is coming out there to do whatever he's asked. I mean, that I loved, today in today's press conference with Casey Concepcion and Marcus Radcliffe. They both kind of talked about it. It's like it was one of the cooler moments because Concepcion, that was kind of his intro into this is a team that is trying to do everything possible to get a win, and that means making 3 blocks in special teams, running your butt off to try to protect your punt returner and do anything. It's not about him gaining anything and him wanting to try to move up the depth chart. It's mainly just, look, I'm going to do what I'm asked, and it's going to be one of those situations where if I get a goal line touchdown, that's fantastic. But at the same time, I want to see Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens and Amari Daniels get theirs too. And that's the team effort, because he wouldn't have stayed, this season if it was all about him. He could have either easily transferred, found a new home, maybe found a job where he'd be the number 1, number 2 back. But, he's in an interesting backfield right now where if he keeps playing very well, he could move up. We don't know. We don't know what this running backs room is going to look like all season because we haven't seen, what it's going to look like in full form yet. Like, we haven't seen that game where they break out. That could be this weekend against Utah State. That could be against Notre Dame, to be honest, from what we saw against Miami. We don't know. But or it could be, again, leaning towards passing game, and this running game starts to gain steam later entering SEC play. But either way, those were the positives, right? It's just, it's very easy to come away from this game and feel very good about where Marcel Reed is as a quarterback, how good this offense could be with Concepcion and Craver down the line. And let's not mention, obviously, Ashton Bethel-Roman, who had a catch for 20 yards, Terry Bussey, who's an elite blocker out there. I know that stupid joke, rival fan base who may have fun blocking for it. Well, guess what? He blocked the hell out of a ton of guys, and he opened up a couple touchdowns for Mario Craver. So good. I don't care if he's blocking, and I don't think he does either. He's going to get his in the passing game, but in that game, PFF ranked him as an elite blocker in that game. And that's, again, that's like EJ Smith doing your job. That's football. It's not all about personal stats, and that's what's going to make this team better. Now we can lead into the negatives, which was on defense. The secondary played well, obviously allowing, now granted UTSA didn't throw the ball a ton, but when Owen McCown was in there, he only had, I think, 123 passing yards. And it was about that. I think it was less than 200 through the air. So the secondary did their job. Des Ricks played well. Actually, he played better than any of the corners out there, I believe. But everybody else, Will Lee, Julio Humphrey, they all did a pretty good job. Tyreek Chappelle had not a great game. That was something I wasn't surprised by. He hasn't played football in a while. He's getting acclimated back to a very tough spot. I think he allowed 5 receptions on 6 targets, but people shouldn't be worried about that. That's happened. He's a vet. He's going to figure it out pretty soon. And it's just one of those things at the beginning of the season. But I'll let you get in on this, but run fits. Run fits was the biggest issue. And we saw one of your favorite players, Robert Henry, their star running back, run for over 175 yards on the night, which, again, I mean, he was just gashing this defense. And it was kind of incredible. It's like, I was watching and I'm like, man, this is like the Cowboys defense last season against the Saints, where I just watched, Alvin Kamara and everybody else just gash that Cowboy D. But the difference there was Cowboys just sucked. I don't know. But for A&M, this is the run fit issue. And for those, again, if you are a football person, I think you played football, you know what run fits are. It's basically positioning to find your gaps to stop the run, especially at linebacker when you're shifting with the defensive line to get pressure, follow where that running back is going, especially on stretch plays, going right or left. You kind of go towards that runner, and then your linebackers or your safeties are going to go downhill, get that guy hopefully in the backfield, or stop him from getting large gains. So that's the basics of run defense. And the problem was guys were getting blocked off. Linebackers, even Torian York, who said, look, we were just not in good position. Scooby Williams had actually a better game, I believe. He really stepped it up at the end. I think he got at TFL, a couple at the end, when Mike Elko made his adjustments. But either way, let me get you in on this. What do you think? Do you think this was just, early jitters, not being fully prepared that they were going to run the ball that much? Do you think but I think you probably agree with me. It's pretty fixable with practice, and I think they have the guys to get it done.
I think overall it is definitely fixable, especially going into this next game, because the coaching staff is going to want to get everything set in stone before their matchup with Notre Dame. Going to South Bend in that environment is going to be one of the harder environments they're going to have to play in this year, especially on the road. Irish love their football, and they definitely are going to have one of the best run games in college football, hopefully. At least that's what's projected. I know we saw a little bit of weirdness going on in Miami, but I'm going to assume that's not going to be the case when the Aggies go up to South Bend. But the problems are fixable, like straightforward they are. I think a lot of the times it was a lot of players either overcommitting to wanting to help out for the run game, but just being a little bit too far away. It is little things that are easily fixable if you go back and watch the film and tell the players this is exactly what happened. This is how you do it. Just slide over a little bit more. Maybe you move a little bit more pre-snap. That's how it's going to be. So I think against Utah State, who we're going to get into here in a second, they also have a decent running back there for them, who's going to be one of their main focal points for their offense. But he's more of a receiving back. So how are they going to adjust based on that for this game?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do, and this is what I was kind of waiting to not to get to this part, is that Dalton Brooks is going to be back. So Dalton Brooks did not play in this game, which was a little shocking to me. I didn't know he was banged up, but I think he was dealing with something in the preseason. So probably just precautionary. Elko did that last season, and I think a lot of these teams are prone to, we feel like we're going to win this opening game, even though nothing's guaranteed. So we're not going to play everybody if they're a little banged up unless they have to. Jordan Shaw, Washington transfer corner, he also sat out. Elko said on Monday he's day-to-day, which isn't mandatory that he gets rushed back, being that they have Tyreek Chappelle and Bravion Rogers in that nickel spot. But again, Dalton Brooks being back is going to be huge for this defense, because we had said on the show, we've talked about that elite athleticism. Mike Elko talked about it as well. This is a run and hit safety. This is somebody who's going to be very valuable against the run, especially in those situations where the defensive line maybe isn't holding up as well, that you can rely on. Because I do, again, with the linebackers, Torin Yorkins could be ones who are going to get it right. These guys are veterans. They know what they're doing. They had a bad game. They're going to fix it, especially Torin York, who's one of the more cerebral players and defenders in college football. But Marcus Radcliffe, who had a fantastic day. I mean, this kid was all over the place. Should have had a pick. I think he ended with 7 tackles, 2 TFL, 2 pass deflections. I mean, wherever the ball was, Marcus Radcliffe was there. I mean, this kid, that all the work he put in, all the good things we've heard about him, he showed out. He had a fantastic game, and very happy to see that, because that's where I'm getting to. Like, if you have Radcliffe playing like that and he's taking that next step, getting Brooks back, we believe, is going to be much better and much more consistent this season, after playing very well last year, but having some boneheaded mistakes and getting some late hits and, stuff that young players who play very hyped and very energetic just do dumb things. But at the same time, having him back, automatically I feel better about this defense, because I do think, and we can get to this with defensive line, DJ Sanders and Landon Rink, 2 freshmen who played very well when they came in there. I'm going to be honest. Maybe that's something you think about. DJ Sanders offers a lot of size inside, and Landon Rink, one of the strongest players on this team, plays with a high motor, was in the backfield a couple times. I think he finished with about 4 tackles. Again, maybe that's something you think about early in this game. Maybe in Utah State, you rotate these guys and see what they've got, because I get their freshmen. You've got Tyler Odietta, DJ Hicks, Albert Regis. Regis probably had the best game out of any of the defensive tackles. I mean, he cleaned stuff up at the end. And but either way, this run defense is fixable. That's the difference. I've seen a lot of fans and stuff who, again, look, I get the BAS, and you saw UTSA running back run all over the place, and you think that's a symptom. It's not. These games happen a lot. And again, it was kind of funny that earlier in the week, Mike Elko kind of talked about like, look, we kind of know UTSA, but it's kind of hard because we know Robert Henry's good, and we do know they have like a good offensive line, but we don't really know the defense. They came in and played better than expected, right? So that happens a lot. You can go around. Arizona State played Northern Colorado. I think that was like a 24-13 game at one point. Again, a lot of good teams aren't going to blow out every lesser opponent in week one. And, you can't judge them exactly off that. But I think it is good personally that they struggled now because if you struggle now, you have time to fix it. Because if you struggled again, if you dominated against UTSA and Utah State, then you went on the road and just get gashed for 300 yards on the ground against Notre Dame. Well, then you have a week, and then you wait, and then you start SEC play, and you're feeling that, you're feeling like crap, and then you really have to fix it, right? Well, no. Now you got practice. You got another game to showcase your improvement, and then you're going to be ready to take on the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in this next game against Utah State, do you think like there could be that sleeper person that the Aggies aren't ready for that you know of? But if you don't, that's fine. I was just asking off the top of my head if you kind of thought of anybody who kind of stood out to you in your watching.
Yeah, honestly, Miles Davis was the only guy I really noticed a lot of. I think that it was I think it was like a 28-13 game. I watched some of the offense. I thought the defense did a pretty decent job. Granted, they were playing UTEP, even though they were playing Malachi Nelson, who you all believe was a 5-star quarterback at one time and one of the most heralded players, which is kind of crazy, but that's college football in a nutshell. I think they have a pretty decent receiving core. Trying to think, it was Corey Thompson. There were a couple other guys. I can't really think of all the names, but there's some speed there. And again, Bryson Barnes is a player who's a playmaker, kind of like Owen McCowan was. So I think that Utah State's greatest strength going into this game is they're probably going to watch the film and think, maybe let's try to pass on A&M early because they weren't tested a lot. Maybe they're kind of thinking, well, we can maybe expose them early and throw some deep passes or kind of get some chunk gains and see if, we can really, put some pressure on them over top. I've seen teams do that in the past, especially when you have a game where, I forget what it was. Like, I think after that second possession in the third quarter, A&M allowed like -1 yards against UTSA, so if you have those adjustments, and again, that's Elko's adjustments in a nutshell. So it's like, I think that maybe this could be a situation where they get a big gain through the air or something, maybe beat, Des Ricks on a long one or something, and then they get a little momentum, and then Miles Davis catches a screen and they score, and it puts A&M in a little bit of a hole. I think that's the only way they can keep this game close. I think they have to score early. I think they have to get a little momentum because I do think A&M is going to be very, very ready to prove that they are the number 19 team in the country and that their defensive lapse was just what it was. It just kind of happened and they weren't completely ready. And I think that, I think the pass rush is going to be a big emphasis. I think that if Bryson Barnes and Bronco Mendenhall, their head coach, is willing to drop back more and let their quarterback, run things, that's going to give guys like Deion Hayes, Cassius Howell, Rylan Kennedy, who had a sack when they finally started passing and had to. I think they're going to really start get going. I mean, because I still believe in this defensive line. I still believe that this pass rush has something to them. And I do believe that DJ Hicks and Albert Regis and Tyler Odienem, who did not have a good game, that was kind of the shock, that Odienem was one of the lower guys according to PFF against the run. Did okay at the end, but just I think he's still getting acclimated to his new spot. I think it's going to take this game for everybody to get up to snuff. And again, I'm not saying it won't be a challenge because, Bronco Mendenhall has a long history of building programs, doing a pretty good job there. They have players, and outside of Miles and Bryson Barnes, you're going to see some guys kind of show up and surprise. Javen Jacobs, I think, is one of their backup running backs as well. So I think that's somebody as well. We got a lot of speed. got run after catch ability. Again, these aren't the thing is, and it's kind of interesting. I don't want to get too off topic, but watching North Carolina last night, biggest takeaway was that team looked very slow, right? They looked like a bad.
Right. It was very, very slow. It was almost lethargic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So you're not going to.
It was almost lethargic.
And that's what's crazy to me, because when you face teams like Utah State, what they don't have is they don't have a bunch of elite recruiting talent. They don't have a lot of like big size up front. It's usually more athletic blockers and stuff, not smaller, but they don't have like what A&M has. They don't have a lot of size in the interior, a lot of undersized pass rushers, and that's just based on the program and recruiting. But they don't lack speed most of the time. That's the thing. A lot of these places have a lot of speed because they're recruiting smaller, faster guys. So that could be the way you keep competitive in this game. But at the same time, I just don't think that this is going to be even the same game as UTSA, because if Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are doing that in the first game of the season and making it look just easy, like a cakewalk, what do you think they're going to do against defense that isn't that much better? I mean, let's be honest. I can't take a lot away from playing UTEP. UTEP is not a good team. Outside of Nelson's pretty much the biggest team. So look, I don't. And again, they only scored 28 points. They didn't blow them out. It was just an average football game. So personally, I think
this
that
is
really going to handle this.
This is a team that lost their best offensive production to South Carolina, who in Rasul Faison last year. So he just got his waiver approved so he can play at South Carolina. We saw him a little bit in that matchup against Virginia Tech. But when I do watch Utah State's first game compared to their season last year, it is very obvious that they are still trying to piece together what their team is going to look like this year compared to what they had in the running back room on that firepower side last year. So I do think A&M could go into this game and kind of feel very, very solid and building on the blocks that they had in the first game, fix up the mistakes so that when you go to South Bend the week after, you can actually confidently say that you're putting yourself in the best position to succeed.
Yeah.
Am I wrong there?
All agree on that. So, I mean, I think that it was good to have the game you had against UTSA. I always think that you should open with a challenge. I think we said that before the show. Hilariously enough, I almost won the prediction game. I think I said 42-17, and then he threw that deep touchdown.
Yes.
And that was my dream. So I knew that UTSA was going to put a little pressure on them. I didn't know it was going to be 21-17. And again, A&M was kind of playing with their food a bit. They were just kind of like, okay, let's turn it on now. That was kind of hilarious to me. It's like, okay, they're down by 4. Let's turn it on. Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
So having an early game, which I think is going to affect Utah State more than A&M. I think that A&M is going to be ready to go for this game. I think Kyle Field's going to be rocking. I think they are. I think especially knowing what they have in the passing game now, that's just going to draw even more people. I mean, they had 107,520 in Kyle Field for the opener. Okay, that was, I think Florida State had what? It's obviously a smaller venue, but I think they had like 67,000, and they were like, that place was rocking.
Something like that.
Yeah, so there's a huge difference there. And look, if you want to just talk about the negatives all day, be the Debbie Downer. That's fine. I really don't care because it's the first game. You can do that. You can do that if this continues into the season. Fine. If you want to complain and say, "Oh, I told you," I saw a lot of people saying, "I told you so." Okay, what did you tell me? I don't know, but whatever. Either way, this is going to be another test in terms of proving just how good you are, especially on offense. But I think a lot of people, I think we know that Marcel's going to have a pretty damn good day through the air. I can already see that. I think if he's slicing and dicing against UTSA's defense, I don't see much difference there. And I think that I would love to see Ashton Bethel-Roman have a big day. That would be fantastic. I would love to see some more guys get involved. But at the same time, it's just we've talked about throughout the offseason, getting him confidence, which we've already seen is on a good track right now. So this is just going yeah. But yeah, what's the biggest well, let me ask you this. What's the biggest takeaway you want to see from this game?
Biggest takeaway is I want to see the Aggies actually have that balance that kind of we saw this past game flipped on its head. So I really want to see what they now look like if they were to be 55% rush this game and 45% pass. I think if they are able to open that up in this game, I don't think that Notre Dame coming off of bye is going to necessarily be able to game plan exactly what they want to do against the Aggies in week 3. I don't want to look too far ahead and underestimate Utah State, but I think in this game, the Aggies are definitely Aggies of Texas A&M are going to want to see exactly what they have on the ground game and not put too much pressure on Marcel Reed to utilize the ground game himself. I think a lot of it is going to come out of these running backs this next week. It definitely should. I do think that last week it opened up the passing game a little bit more, but like I said at the start of the show, if he's able to open up the passing game a little bit more, what do we think that's going to open up for the ground game with all these running backs that are hungry to run this ball right at your nose?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is that Notre Dame has an off week, so I don't know if a lot of people know that, but so how it kind of goes is they have an off week. They get to just watch A&M the entire time because that's all they care about. They're 1-1. They had a really bad finish to the game. I mean, they had to score late, but it was always just, tying the game at 24, and then Miami had the ball with over a minute left, or a little more than a minute left, and could just drive down there. And credit to Carson Beck. We had set up the show, interception machine, but he had a very good game and showed off his arm talent and some incredible catches too. I mean, let's be honest there. But
right.
But yeah, it's a big week for Notre Dame. I think they cannot sustain another loss, and they cannot sustain a loss to Texas A&M, because that will greatly damage their chances of making the playoff, because their schedule just isn't good enough outside of those games to get to the playoff field. Because if you think back to last year, yes, they made a run and they went all the way to the championship. A lot of that was Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love, sorry. But at the same time, their schedule is bad. I mean, they beat A&M to open the season, then they lost to Northern Illinois at home, and then they had to basically run the table. And still, to this day, people will say if they didn't beat A&M that night, they wouldn't have been in, and it would have been a waste of a season. So
exactly.
But this is also but this is big for A&M too, right? You're getting ready for Notre Dame, which is kind of odd because you need to win this game, right? You need to beat Utah State, but at the same time, it's just another way to get ready for them, because it's just another opponent, nameless, faceless, right? That's kind of you have to look at it. It's just another opponent coming into our house for an early kickoff. We're pissed off at the way we started the game against UTSA. We're happy the way we finished. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, is that a lot of it was just about finishing. But I kind of countered that and said, you need to start better. You cannot have.
You definitely do.
Yeah, you have to. You have to come back. You have to really wield your strength. And like you said, if that running back group, if that's the focus in this game and they get hot early, then that's just going to open everything up. And then the blowout can really come. I mean, that's how I kind of see it, is that you can win with just the same strategy, because I think Marcel Reed's going to be locked in and he's just got so many weapons now. But you don't want to do that. You want to start strong. You want to have a balanced offensive attack, and you want to look very good and kind of confuse Notre Dame a bit, saying, okay, what are they going to focus on? Are they going to try to establish a run early, or are they just going to say, if I can't run them, I'm screwed. We're just going to start passing, right? They just don't know, because like you smartly said earlier in the show, A&M did not – Marcel Reed didn't drop back that much last season. We even think back to Florida. He had a couple
27 times.
Yeah. And but again, they dominated on the ground in that crappy weather game where, again, the memorable juke that they'll always show, which is just beautiful. But yeah, it's going to be hard to scout A&M, I think. And I think Notre Dame already knows that. I think Freeman already knows that, man, they have a lot of speed, and we haven't even seen this run game come to life yet. So they may have 2 weeks, but I think it's still advantage A&M right now. I'm kind of proud of the rest of my coverage guys who are kind of pointing that out, that this is even more meaningful for A&M right now in terms of the way Notre Dame played, because Mike Elko got a lot of tape on CJ Carr, and he got a lot of tape on that O-line that did not play well, and a lot of pressure up front. Maybe you can answer this for me. I don't know if Miami's defensive line is that good. I
They
think
are.
they are. Yeah,
They are.
they're pretty good. I know they have some dudes on there.
I want to highlight one specific player that I know people are
Sure.
going to know over the rest of the season. NFL scouts are already talking about him to be a potential first or second rounder, and that's Ruben Bain for Miami.
Yeah.
Ruben Bain was consistently Notre Dame was consistently trying to double team him off the edge. He just kept beating them. He had a beautiful chop and swim move over the top in that fourth quarter to get the sack on CJ Carr.
Yes.
It was absolutely beautiful. But we've previewed Notre Dame already with Michael. That this offensive line it's what they do is that they're able to have this next man up mentality with Notre Dame, that these offensive linemen can come in, be hungry, and be together as a team. And that only gets stronger as you get more reps throughout the season. So I think it's a little bit more valuable that A&M actually gets Notre Dame off of a bye week because they don't get those snaps in game. You can have all the practice you want, but if it's going to happen in a game, I think that's where it's going to be dangerous for them. So I'm really I'm looking forward to see this weekend against Utah State what Cassius Howell and Deion Hayes off the edge can do, especially in the outside, because this their quarterback, I believe Bryson Barnes, he only he was their second leading rusher on the team this past week. I think he had like 6 carries, and then everybody else besides their main running back had like 1.
Yeah.
And he can take off. I don't think that's necessarily what he's going to want to do. But, I mean, a lot of the things that I'm looking for this next week is on the offensive side, because I think those defensive mishaps that you had this past week are going to be shored up. So this next week, I'm hoping to see what the offense can do. And this is a Utah State team that was 128th in the nation last year in points per game allowed. So it's a very, very large number. They were also really, really bad against the run last year, at least per attempt. I think it was also in the 120s for that. So that's why I definitely want to see what this offensive firepower can be in the rush game instead.
Yeah, so that's what I've been saying, is that I've done a little bit of a deep dive. We'll do it. Obviously, we usually do it a little later, a couple days for the game. But on the onset, it's not good, right? It's not good for Utah State. It's like it's one of ththose things where you don't want to play an A&M team like this right now, because when they, again, and I love to point that out, I kept thinking about it, the last couple of days when I was writing articles and talking about this stuff, is that, again, it was 21-17. And then, you saw Shehan Jarani, who I love from CBS Sports, was kind of tweeting about this. And he's like, whoa, like, look what just happened here. It's like, and I was like, just wait. That Elko is going to get mad. He's going to adjust. And the defense is going to get really pissed. And they're just going to start wreaking havoc. And that was the situation where I think it woke them up for the rest of the year right now. I think when you are just getting gashed over and over and over and looking like ragdolls out there, right? Guys just getting pushed over, and you got Robert Hunt, who again was a community college running back, right? So it's like he wasn't a 5-star prospect. You're just oh my God, the talent. Well, he's very talented, right? But that's a workhorse. That's a young man who had to come in, work his ass off, and get this opportunity at UTSA to have a chance to keep playing football, right? So he took advantage of every opportunity, and A&M was just kind of letting their foot off the gas and letting them do it. And when that happens, it's good to happen in the first game, because they completely turned it off. They said, you know what, screw this. You're not getting another yard until it's garbage time, and we're up 42-17. And that's the mentality that if you're going into an early game where, I'll say this, when Marcus Radcliffe and Casey Concepcion were talking to me today, big smiles on their face. they're as happy as a clam. They
were super happy today, my friend.
Yeah, and they were not, and we'll get into that, but it's but again, Marcus Radcliffe especially, because he knows, because he was asked about the run fits and how are you guys going to fix it. He gave good answers of like, kind of like Mike Elko. Look, this is, you could just diagnose. If diagnosed, hit, get your guy down. It's basically just better eye discipline. It's getting position better. And it's those hog mollies up front that are going to have to get some pressure, which I think they will this week. Because I'm going to be honest, I will give credit to UTSA's offensive line. that's pretty good. That's a pretty good unit. I think they're going to keep Owen McCallum and Robert Henry clean most of the year. I think that they're going to have a pretty good offense. Utah State's not the same. I think that this defensive line, but you mentioned Deion Hayes. I didn't like how he was kind of positioned most of the time. I think, again, first game with A&M, getting him off the edge, getting him free, getting him Cashatau especially, who had 5 pressures. It's not, he only had a tackle, but he did a good job getting in the backfield. Obviously, Rylan Kennedy had that 1 sack. But you could tell at the end of the game, and I think it was Scooby Williams, TFL at the end, just these guys are hungry. They're like, you know what, screw this. We're way better than this. So next team up, let's demolish them. Then we can focus on Notre Dame. We know it's going to be challenging, blah, blah, blah. But I think that it's more advantage A&M because they're going to be playing football this weekend. And you're 100% right. You can scheme and watch film and go, well, we're not going to do this and we're going to focus on this all week in a film room. It's not the same thing. Like, because A&M is going to be playing football. You're going to be watching football. So, yeah, you have a little more time, but you think – and I know the national media and the perspective, but, again, the way A&M lost last year, like, that stayed with that team, especially Mike Elko, because he thought that, you lost Reuben Owens and Connor Wegman was dealing with a shoulder injury, but some people say, what if Marcel Reed was playing in that game and, maybe he could have given a chance. You just don't, it's all those what ifs, right? So now you have a chance.
Lot of what ifs that you just don't want to have in the back of your head.
Exactly. And so if you're now coming in, barring any knock on wood injuries, anything that comes up, but you're likely coming into this game fully healthy, 2-0, confident, especially Marcel Reed is confident. I mean, I loved it. I was watching the game with my mom, and she's not, she didn't follow that much that, A&M stuff. She's watching. She saw Marcel Reed. He was going out and signing an autograph in the stands after. She's like, he's doing that? That's just the sweetest thing. And I'm like, well, that's who he is. Anybody's talking.
Who he is.
That's who he's the man, right? And I'm not saying that because, as a fanboy, I would say that about anybody. Hey, I loved Connor Wegman. I loved, I love that he's doing a good job so far with Houston. That's the job of being a quarterback, right? You're a leader. He is the leader of this team. And yeah, there's other leaders on this team, but he is that guy.
He's one of them. He's that guy on this team.
But he's the quarterback. You're always going to be the number one guy. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm glad that, we got to see a game that really solidified the improvements we wanted to see. And now, my expectations have slowly changed a little bit, and it's not going backwards; it's still going forwards. And yeah, I'm excited to see just how they get better, because that's the biggest thing, right? You want to get better each and every week. Doesn't really depend on the opponent. You just want to fix the problems and fix the fixable, especially the run fit issues, which are very fixable.
Yeah, definitely some things that could be fixed in the future, but For like this next week, I think that you want to leave this next week without those questions going into South Bend, right?
Yeah, you don't want any lingering big questions like they had after the game.
No, definitely not. So I think after this week, if you project forward, it's like, what questions could we see after this game? Like, what if the rushing game isn't this big explosive rush game that we all project it to be? What will be the talk then? Or do we see Marcel Reed only throw like 24 times and it's like he only connects on like 17 of them? Are people going to be considering that a bad game or a projection of what he could? I'm projecting forward.
Yeah,
projecting forward.
No, I agree. I'm laughing because I can just see the message boards now. I'm thinking of.
It's part of our job to kind of project these sports, kind of think of these stories.
I don't want to mention them all the time on the show, but it was funny that ESPN, I think it was Pete Thamel, who mentioned orange blood messaging boards after the Arch Manning thing. And I was just laughing because I was like, Arch Manning got too much criticism. I mean, he didn't play well, but again,
it was way too much. I think
it was way too much. It was way, guys. I mean, I'm sitting there, I was talking to my dad, and he's like, he's in Canada right now, and he was he was kind of texting me, he's like, man, Arch isn't playing well, right? And I'm like, and I was kind of telling him all the football reasons why, not going, yeah, he's not. Like, no, I was like, this is why play calling, all those things. But I didn't expect that type of reaction from that fan base, which, again, we've seen that kind of stuff with Marcel Reed in the past, and especially like, he's not the guy. I saw even in the middle of the game, put Miles O'Neill in. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, well, wait, what? It's like,
it's a little bit much. I think a lot of people who are not Marcel Reed enjoyers are very adamant that they are not Marcel Reed enjoyers.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of the fan base now is kind of active.
But to answer your question, I do agree that if it's going to be an either or thing, right? If they focus more on one and have more success, that's what we got, right? It was that Marcel had a career day with 4 touchdowns, had a fantastic day. I mean, all of us who cover the team, we were focusing on that. I've written 2 or 3 articles about the run defense issues and all those things they can fix. But at the same time, I just kept thinking back to, man, that 31-yard pass to Casey Concepcion. Man, those 2 touchdowns to Mario Craver. Man, that punt return. That's what I'm thinking of, because I'm thinking of, this is what we were focusing on all offseason. Yeah, the run game hasn't come yet, but a lot of teams didn't run well this weekend. A lot of teams haven't established where their run game is going to be yet, because that's actually sometimes the last thing to come, especially if you have new weapons in the offense that you want to get going.
Right.
You want to solidify, because if you get Concepcion, who stated today, like, I want to have a better game, right? You have a guy like that on your team, you want to get him the ball. That's like having Christian Kirk back then. You wanted to get Christian Kirk the ball whenever possible. That's how it worked. So yes, it's going to be, what did you say, kind of the percentage one? What are they? I mean, actually, that's a good question. What do you think percentage-wise they want to even do this season, like with pass and run? Because that's
I think it's a good question. I think, do you want to go back to what you had this past year, where it was either 57 to 60% rush, or are you wanting to expand it a little bit more? It's intriguing to me, because I think a lot of fans would naturally think that you're going to tick down a little bit more in the rush department and kind of go towards that passing, because you have these explosive wide receivers now that, frankly, you didn't have this past year in terms of big play game, right? So I'm thinking that the distribution now is going to be a little bit more 55-45
that's a good one.
Yeah. Rush pass. So if you have Marcel Reed dropping back 45% of the time, and the average amount of plays in a game for the offense is around 70? Is that give or take, depending on the game? I'm not projecting A&M to have more than like 80 plays of offense in this next game, but let's say he does drop back about 32 times. If he's completing a lot of those passes, you're going to be very, very confident in where you're going, especially along this season. So I think that's where you're wanting all of these physical development traits and all these passing traits that you saw from Marcel Reed this offseason, and what we saw against UTSA progress onward.
Yeah. So I'm in total agreement. We do have to mention he missed on that wide open ball to Casey Concepcion, which was one of the funnier moments that I think. He was so wide open. He was right in the end zone, and he put a little too much mustard on that thing, which that's first game overhyped. I love Marcel Reed's reaction. He was just like, damn. Like, you're never going to be that wide open again, like, all season. So it's just, it is kind of funny that they've already got this chemistry that's just going to keep getting better and better. So it is true. I think that the fan base, part of them, are going to whine either way. I think they're always going to find something to complain about, because it's never going to be perfect. That's the beauty of college sports. The Clemson LSU game, like, at the end of it, and you could tell, Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney are jarring back at they're sparring, calling each other. It's like a grading system today. Coaches do it, fan bases do it. They're always going to find something to keep them motivated. And I think I'll say this, though, if they clean up the running game, the run defense, and they basically shut Utah State down, I think one sect of the fan base will be happy. But like you said, if the run game doesn't gain, I mean, what's a good number to you? 170?
I would like to see upwards of 185.
Yeah, around there. So if they have that type of game, but Marcel misses on some passes, has to run around, and he's taking too long to read through his progressions, and he's not releasing quick enough. Then of course they're going to go back and say, well, maybe the first one was a fluke. Maybe we need to reevaluate. That's going to happen. Like it always. I saw no, but that's the crazy thing, right? He was not the problem at all. He was having a great day, and
No, not at all.
And I'm seeing put Miles in. I'm like, okay, you're right. Like the hater's gonna hate, as they say, and it's always going to be like those of us calling out the actual problems, and then people saying, well, no, these are the actual problems. You just wait. I love that. I love when people say that. You just wait. I'm like, okay. I'll just wait till the next game when they're better in this area or they're slightly worse. It's football. Like you're not gonna have a perfect
football,
like,
guys. Don't overthink it.
And that's what I'm saying about like LSU and Clemson. Clemson was up like 10-3, and they were just running the ball. Yeah, they were running tough, and they found the end zone, and they had the momentum. And then you go back, and Garrett Nussmeier, credit to him, had a great game. They were just making accurate. He's making accurate throws. It was a very low-scoring defensive battle. LSU's defense looks a lot better, but they end up winning 17-10 in a game when all the momentum was with Clemson. Football is a confusing sport. Like it happens that way. And, it'd be funny to see like message boards on Clemson. It's probably, some are going to be anti-Dabo Swinney. Some are going to be like, hey, Klubnik's not the guy because he threw an interception. He was 19 for 30.
They were two very, very tough teams going up against each other, and a lot of unpredictable things can happen when a lot of skill is on the field.
Yes, and that's the thing. If you have, again, Garrett Nussmeier has a good game. Cade doesn't. Flip it around. Cade has a good game. Garrett doesn't. You're going to have NFL analysts go, well, he's a better prospect. So it is what it is. But for A&M, the biggest takeaway is, you want balance. So you do want, like you said, that would be great to see this running game finally go and get about 180 plus yards. And for Marshall Reed to be efficient, get more of those big passes, get more of those short passes that end up being 20, 30-yard gains, get Concepcion going early, get Mario Craver his. I would love to see Terry Bussey involved more in the passing game. That'd be great. I kind of want to see how he's developed. But the biggest thing I want to see is the screen game. I want to see more screens. I want to see screens to Urban Owens. I want to see screens to Mario Craver. I want to see all the screens. That's what I want to see. Because
I especially want to see. I want to see screens to this guy right here. Just every single time. This guy right here.
Yeah.
We saw how much of a playmaker he can be.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be the number one target either way all season. And that's the thing about Notre Dame, which kind of excites me, is if some of those Miami wide receivers are making plays, which I think their wide receiver core is fine. You can disagree with me. I think they're fine. I don't think they're like elite or anything like that. I think they're fine. You are right. Like Ruben Baines, that's a good defensive line. I was kind of being an asshole, but that if you got Concepcion who's just going to keep getting better and better in this offense, watch out. Like no secondary is really going to lock him down. He's just too quick, and he's not. Nothing against Noah Thomas. Again, larger wide receiver, didn't really do much in his debut as Georgia. I don't know if that was just being out of position or just the way they're playing offense, but it's just a different cat. It's a different player, different skill set, fits this offense perfectly. I bet Colin Klein's got to be a happy man because he's finally got the quickness at wide receiver that he's been asking for that he couldn't really utilize last year outside of Cyrus Allen, Jabari Barber. That's pretty much it. So it's going to be fun, but
I'm ready to have some fun.
I know. And we can predict. So we'll do our predictions again. I know you have some recruiting news. We can talk about Brandon Arrington, A&M's number one. Basically, I think he is the number one ranked prospect in their class. I know he's the number one ranked.
Definitely the number one cornerback ranked.
And I think Rivals has him at like number 10 overall. So elite player, future NFL first round pick type of player, 6'2", incredible length, elite track speed.
Elite track speed. He has broken many records in the state of California.
Mm-hmm. So
if for our people who have not seen already, Brandon Arrington announced today that he has officially shut down his recruitment with Oregon, Penn State, and among others hot on the trail to get him. But he has officially shut down his recruitment. So this is another one of the Aggies who have shut down their recruitment. I mean, we saw all the way back at the start of the summer that this makes just, I think, over 8+ of their commits in the class have publicly stated they have shut down their recruitments and they're here to stay in Aggie land. So this one is a very, very big one, and I would not be surprised if down the line we see more of these commits during the season do it. They have completely locked into A&M right now. So
and that's big for Arrington, because I think sorry to cut you off, but I think that having him and Victor Singleton shut down the recruitment, that is huge for this future secondary. I mean, that's the thing that you are going to see next year, that Will Lee, he's definitely leaving, obviously. You're going to have some holes there. And I think Arrington is the type of player that could end up playing right away. I think he might be just that good in that system. So it is one of those things where when you do hear recruitment shut down for an elite player like that, that's probably going to spur more. I think KJ Edwards is the name to watch next. Obviously, they're a 4-star running back commit. He is getting a lot of attention from LSU. They have made him their number one priority flip candidate. But to be honest, I've read some articles from some insiders that it's kind of funny when you have these articles where they talks about, LSU's trying to flip this A&M commit. And then you read it, and what it really comes out of saying is that, no, I love A&M, but this is just LSU what they're doing.
Right. And I've written about it myself.
I get it. Yeah.
I've written about it myself, is that Texas and LSU were definitely on the warpath to try and get some flips, because they did lose out on some running backs like Xavier Crowell, who went to Bama. So a lot of even their running back commit right now, Derek Cooper, is kind of looking at Miami after their big win. He was there watching. So in the event that something were to happen like that, I definitely think a lot of people can circle back around to KJ Edwards. But he is completely locked in right now with his commitment to A&M. So we're just looking out. But in something like this with Arrington and, of course, Victor Singleton, you have two top 10 corners at their positions already locked into A&M, and they already have a very, very good other cornerback in Cameron Humiel out of Arizona,
who is
specifically a nickel corner. He loves that A&M recruited him specifically as a nickel corner. He is exactly the type of athlete they want right there, who kind of fits that mold of Tyreek Chappelle.
He's a blue chip. If I see, that's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a recruiting expert, but that's a blue chip prospect. That is, I mean, turn on the tape. That is a blue chip prospect who is going to be a star at that position. And that's the type of player that I think Elko, because, we mentioned Tyreek Chappelle, had some trouble in the first game. It's a hard position to play. It is a very hard position to play, especially in college football. And going into the NFL, that is a premium position. Like, you see NFL teams all over the place when, for example, when the Cowboys lost Jordan Lewis in free agency, that sucked, because Jordan Lewis, and we'll see how that affects the Cowboys, for example. But it's just one of those positions where if you don't have that elite quickness and you don't have those instincts and you can't follow those type of, twitchy receivers inside that are going to get those easy third down conversions that are just going to beat you up in the middle, you're going to have a tough time on defense, because that's the type of game that, like we were saying with A&M, that's the type of offense that Colin Klein runs. It's like expose those type of defenders in the middle of the field because they can't cover our wide receivers. Well, if you don't have that on the other end, that opposing teams are just going to do that to you. So it's fantastic they're recruiting that way. But 3 players, Jonathan Hatton, their other 4-star running back. That's their security blanket right now. If Edwards was to flip, not saying anything in the sorts is happening. But it is good to know that Hatton has locked down his recruitment as well. So
Texas A&M has who I believe, besides Notre Dame, to have the best running backs in the class in 2026. So it's really, really good to see. And tell you what, I think these people are going to want to know our predictions for this weekend.
Let's get that going. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not a genius in terms of predicting at all. I usually have both of my writers at Aggies Wire predict like 56 points or something. I have 42 because I'm a realist, as they say. I'm not a realist. But I will say that A&M is going to look even better on offense. I do believe that. I think, we talked to the entire show about it. I think the run game will look a little better. I don't think it's going to look drastically better. Like it's just going to, blow our minds and go, wow, what happened last week? I think that means Le'Veon Moss is going to get at least 8 to 10 carries. I think he's going to see a lot more, and because I think he's itching to get back on the field. I think we're going to see Reuben Owens used in the screen game, similar to what we saw against USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. I think everybody kind of remembers that first half offense that A&M was running. That's, I think, what you're going to see more of, especially with Concepcion and Craver now in that offense. But I think this is going to be a game where A&M's just running up and down the field. I think the run defense is going to get much better. I think they will. Look, there's going to be moments where Utah State will get a big gain when A&M may be asleep at the wheel at some points. That just happens. It's an early game, so I think people need to remember that. But people also need to remember that when they beat the crap out of Missouri last year, that was an early game. And that was a game where Le'Veon Moss destroyed the Missouri Tigers, who I think were number 7 at the time. That was an SEC team. So I would say advantage A&M. I think the position to watch in this game, as you said, is pass rush. I think the defensive ends are going to be looked at. Cassius Hell, Deion Hayes, Rylan Kennedy, Samuel Mpemba, who actually had a pretty good game. I think he had tackle for loss. I'm going to say 49-10. That's what I'm going to say on this one.
49-10. I think I'm going to go a little bit more. I think if the Aggies are going to be scoring a lot more than we think, and I think I'm with you. I think if the Aggies are going to be scoring a lot more, I think that does mean that they're going to be giving the ball back even quicker, though, just because of that. So I think I'm going to go – I'm playing off of yours, but I think they're going to score even more. I think I'm going to go 52-14.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. And I would love to see a field goal. I'm going to be honest because, Mike Elko talked about it for the game. Jared Zirkle, who I know his kicking coach, who helped me kind of get the news out years ago when he committed. And man, all that guy could talk about was just that leg on that guy. I was like, so what are we talking about here? He's like, no, he's an NFL kicker already. He won it handedly. Exactly. And that's what Mike Elko basically said. He was like, it was a clear competition. Basically nothing against Randy Bond, great kicker, but it's competition, and Zirkle ran away with it. So I'm very excited to see what he can do. I think me and Carter Carrolls are the two guys who just loved the kicking. I think he talked about it a couple times, and I'm probably going to end up doing something later this week because I think it's very important. I would like to see I would love to see them attempt a long field goal in this game. I would think, and I think they were going to do that, which I was kind of confused. I don't know if they were far and close enough, but against UTSA, but I'd have to think when that was. But I agree with you. I think that this is going to be a game where they're just completely motivated. I think it's just motivated to show that they are an elite offense, an elite passing offense, and this run game is going to come together. We didn't spend a lot of time on the O-line, but I will say that when Elko made the changes on the O-line during the game, I think Trey Zune went to center for a little bit. Robert Burden, one of the backup tackles, about 6'6", big guy, played left tackle, played very well, right? Playing against UTSA's defense, but Elko did say this week that he's going to keep rotating, and one of the reasons he's going to keep doing that is because he needs to find, this type of rotation that he can focus on throughout the rest of the season, barring any injuries that are just going to happen. They just do. Guys get dinged up, and you have to rely on depth to get the job done, similar to when TJ Shanahan came in last year, when Koli Faeu came in last year, and Mark Naboo got injured. You need those guys to be ready to play. So I think we're going to see some rotations there, which could be interesting, which could, again, maybe open up this run game more. Maybe you find better fits at certain positions. I'm expecting a big game from Armajari Adams. That's a guy who I'm going to be focused on the run game. I think that he didn't have the best game. Honestly, he had a hold early in the game. He kind of disappeared. He wasn't that big. He had the best run defense grade per PFF, which is not surprising. But I expect him to have a very big take a big jump because I think he's not happy with his performance. I don't think the entire O-line is that happy. So I think they're going to have a big game as well. So. All right, guys, that's all we got for you. Yeah. Anyways, you got any more to say? Any more points, Cannon?
I got nothing else, my friend. I think you covered more.
All right. So So we're trying to grow the show. We're getting better every week. As you can tell, me and Cannon have what they call chemistry in this in this industry, where we can do a podcast weekly and not hate each other and have fun after the show and pre-show. So like and subscribe, follow us we're doing the show every Tuesday night every time at 7 p.m. Barring if one of us can't make it or aren't available, we'll kind of figure that out. You guys get these clips every week where they're cut up everything we talked about for the hour and 5 minutes, which was a lot. Obviously going over UTSA, the UTSA win, previewing Utah State, some recruiting news, and then our predictions. So you guys can watch that throughout the week. So again, like and subscribe, follow the Voice of College Football. It's a growing network. Very proud to be a part of it. And we will be back, obviously, next Tuesday. May have Michael on again to preview Notre Dame because he'll have
That'll be
time.
fun.
That'll be fun. I think that getting him back on to kind of talk about what went wrong against Miami, I think that'll be good for fans to really, really know the problems that they have and what they're trying to fix. I saw and then started to kind of break down how bad Notre Dame's O-line was, which is kind of shocking given their history there.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So we got Utah State obviously this weekend, and then we are on to Notre Dame, and we got a lot to talk about next Tuesday. So again, you can follow me at Cameron Odyssey on X. You can follow Cannon at Torres Cannon. Cannon, tell the folks where they can find all your writing on page.
Yeah, they can find all my writing, recruiting articles on football and basketball over at Bell Tower Intel on Patreon. I have a lot of nuggets that go along every week, along with interviews with recruits and stories that go along with it. So,
all right. As always, you can follow me and my team at Aggies Wired, part of USA Today Sports, doing daily updates. We got a lot. We're focused on Utah State, but we're also focused on, the 2027 recruiting that's going. A lot of visits coming up, a lot of big weekends recruiting wise. So we're also keeping an eye on that kind of stuff. But all right, guys, we'll see you next Tuesday. Gig 'em as always, and let's hope that those predictions stick. Especially the 52.1. I'd love to see that. So, all right, guys, see you later.